Help support the companies that support our community. I used maple for this project. I went ahead and cut the pieces up on the bandsaw. There's 5 different pieces that go into it as far as the wood part of it. So I cut all those up on the bandsaw. The smaller pieces, I cut the corners off on the bandsaw before I went ahead and took it over to the lathe. So I used all the same piece of maple because I'm going to dye it later on, and I wanted to all the grain to match on it. So I'm just cleaning everything, or getting all the pieces ready to head over to the lathe. Did have one thing before I get started turning here. Somebody mentioned that they weren't getting notifications on YouTube anymore, so make sure next to the subscribe button there you ring that bell, and then you'll be notified every time we put up a video. As far as mounting it to the lathe, I used a waste block in the chuck, and then I used hot glue. And again, it's just regular hot glue. There's nothing special about it. You just get it at the craft store. You just use a bigger gun so it gets nice and hot, and then I run a bead around the outside of it, just to give it a little extra something. I trued the piece up with a roughing gouge, and then went ahead and started doing the recessed parts. So there's some plastic pieces that I'm going to put in here. So this little piece in the center, that's for the smaller tube that's going to go on the inside. And for the outer tube, I went in ahead and stepped out and did another recess for it. And I left that a little bit of material in there so that the tube would just slide right down inside of it. So just kind of cleaned it out, recessed it in there almost 1/4 of an inch, and cut up the plastic tubes. I got these at Tap Plastic. I'll have a link down below in the description for those. So, and the reason I switched from the Easy Rougher to the regular parting tool is because I'm going to flip this around in the chuck, and I needed to recess it back in there a little bit. And then I went ahead and started shaping it. This is actually the top piece that's going to go on the tube. So I'm just shaping that. I'll get it all cleaned up best I can, this part of it, and then I'll part it off and flip it around, and then expand the jaws in the chuck to clean up the top of it and sand it. The globe is going to go on the top of this, so what I did is I cupped it out a little bit because the globe's going to be like an oval, and I wanted it to go down into that groove a little bit. So I cupped it out just a little bit so it makes that curve, and then I took a drill bit and drilled a hole down the center, and I'll put a small dowel down in that, and then in the globe part of it to hold it all together. And the same process with this next piece. This is the bottom that's going to go on the other end of the plastic piece. And again, just hot glued it on and started turning it. So after I roughed it up, I did the same process on the bottom of this. I went ahead and recessed for the little tube, and then for the outer tube on it too. The difference with this one is the light's going to come through the bottom of it. So I drilled a bunch of holes in it to let the light come through. And then once I get this part of it turned all and drilled out, I'll flip it around and do the bottom of it. And that's where the main body of the tank is going to come in. And again, that's why I used the other parting tool, was to recess that back in there a little bit so I can grab it in the jaws. So as far as drilling the holes, in hindsight, I probably didn't need this many holes, and the drill bit was a little bit big. I'm using the indexing system to evenly space them out, but I would probably drill the larger holes on the outside and then step down with the drill bit, because one of them fed into the other hole and cut into it, so it's a giant one big hole. So I would definitely step down, and so I just kind of cleaned up the pencil lines and everything to get rid of those. I am going to put a little diffuser on it later on, a little piece of plastic, but it doesn't hide the holes. Once you turn the light on, you can still see them all, so you can see that one that went off there. And the same process with this one. I just brought the diameter down a little bit more and then started shaping it. And then I'll part this off, flip it around in the chuck, and clean up the bottom of it. I did forget to drill the center hole in this one, so I stopped before I got it all parted off and drilled that out, and then finished taking it off. This is the main body of the tank, so I went ahead and put it in between centers, trued it up with a roughing gouge, and then just kind of brought down the diameter a little bit and put a tenon on one end of it so that I could grab it in the chuck. And then what I need to do is take a Forstner bit and go ahead and run it all the way through that so that the light can come up. I measured the depth of the piece and the Forstner bit, so I got it as close as I could, and then knocked out the little plug there. It was about 1/8 of an inch thick, so I was measuring it the whole time I was doing it to make sure it wouldn't go through and hit the chuck. This piece here was one of the waste pieces left over, so I turned a cone shape, and then that way I could put a regular cone on my live center and then put it in between centers and bring the diameter down. This piece here is going to be the base. It's the very bottom of it, and it was just some more left over from turning one of the discs. So what I did is just recessed in the bottom of it so that I could put it in the jaws and turn the top of it. Brought it down to, took off the waste block, and then recessed a little lip down on it so that the bottom of the base will sit in it. So my original plan was to put the light down here in the base. So after I got it all sized and sanded up, I went ahead and popped a hole in the bottom of it. But the light's not bright enough. So I tried putting it in there and it just doesn't shine up enough. So I only needed to do a little hole for the cord, but what I was trying to do here was actually make it the size of the light so it would sit right in there. And it was just, the light wasn't bright enough to shine up all the way to the bottom, and I ended up putting it up a lot higher on the main body of the piece. And this is the final piece here. This is the disc that's going to go on top. So I just went ahead and shaped it and went ahead and came around the back side of it. As far as sanding up the back side of it, I just put the sanding pad on the lathe and did that afterwards. But I just shaped it, trying to give it that globe shape. And then I took just a fine little detail gouge and put a ring around it. The picture I'm going off of has a black ring around it, and then it was white with a red star in the center of it. So I was trying to get it close to that. After I got it parted off and all of it sanded up, I went ahead and started dyeing it. So the picture I'm going off of, the main body of it's red, and then the globe has some red on it, and then the rest of it is dyed black, and I use Transfast dye for that. So I put 3 coats on, so this stuff goes on, it soaks into the wood and dries, and it lightens up a little bit. So there was kind of a certain red I was trying for, and it just kind of, you just keep putting coats on until you get it. I did a poison apple a few years ago, and I think I put 6 or 7 coats on it because I wanted it super deep, dark red. But this one only took 3 of them. So you just, foam brush works great. I just have little jars mixed up, and this stuff lasts forever too. So I had these jars for a couple of years, and it's just mixed with water. Just keep them sealed up, and it works great. For the little diffuser, Robin and I ran to the Dollar Tree, and I was looking for like some tissue paper or something to do it, and Robin found this little organizer, and it worked perfect for it. It's a little more rigid, so it was easier to cut all up and fit right in there. And as far as I was trying to get I got the warm light, the LED light, but it just kind of didn't give off that gas look. So I was trying to get something that would give it that look, and this worked out pretty well. But like I said, you can still see all those little holes when you put it on there. I made 2 discs and was trying to see if I could get it to hide it, but even with the 2 discs, it still shone right through on. See all those holes. And this little spot right here is where the center tube's going to come down, so I needed to go ahead and cut that part out, and I just used a little pair of scissors, and it worked good. The small tube in the center, I'm trying to get that gas look. So I put a little bit of orange dye on a stick and just kind of wiped it around there, but it was a little bit too orange. I ended up putting a little bit of paint in there. I tried some gold and a little bit of brown with it. It came out a little more like that, but the orange was like too bright, and so I was trying to defuse that a little bit afterwards. And just printed off a star and put it in here, and then Robin went ahead and painted all the way around the star. The picture I have, that's what it looks like, the Texaco pump. So I just traced around it, and then Robin went ahead and painted the rest of it. I drilled a small hole in the side of the globe, and I'll attach it to the top piece with a small dowel. I went ahead and dyed that little dowel too. As far as putting it all together, I didn't glue it all together yet. I just kind of wanted to get it together, make sure everything fit and it was facing the right way and proportioned and everything before I glue the whole thing together. It really, as far as it came out, I like the way it came out. There's a couple little things I'm definitely going to try and figure out a different way to drill all those little holes so that the light will come through, because you can see them no matter how many pieces of the little diffuser stuff you can put on there. So I'll mess around with that. I have enough tube to make another one, so I'll figure out a better way to get that light to actually shine through there. And then for the gas hose, I went ahead and picked up some black tube and a little bit of ground wire. So the reason I used the ground wire is so it looks like there's a pipe coming out of the side of it, and then I cut it in half and slid it down there, and then you can actually bend the hose a little bit to give it that loop look or whatever you wanted to do. If you wanted to bend it in a different direction, you could do that too. As far as the other end of it, I just went ahead and left it a little bit longer so it looked like it was the nozzle coming out of the side of the pump. There we go, I got it all together. It is 20 inches tall, and at the base it's about 4.5 inches. A couple little things. I'm trying to figure out how to get it to glow a little more, that yellowish orange look like gas. And so the little lights I got, I'll have a link down below in the description to Amazon where I got them. So they actually come apart, and while I was editing the video, I think I figured out how to make it work. So they pop apart and they have this little disc in them. So if I get that in the yellow or orange or paint this, I think that will work. It'll give it that a little more look like gas. And instead of making that disc all solid like that, I don't need to hollow the tube out. I could just run a drill bit down it to get the wire down. But I could set the light in there and figure out some way to attach that center tube to the center of this, and then you wouldn't have to drill all those holes. You just set this right in there. It would have that glow to it, and then the center tube would go right down on the top of it. So I think that's what I'm going to do on the next one. And the other thing I wanted to show you real quick is I'll figure out how to get that back on later. The tube I got. So this is for garden. It's your sprinkler system, and it has just super cool texture to it. It's just kind of rough. It looks like almost like a flocking or something. It has that feel to it. So I think it looks really cool on there. Rather than just a smooth hose, it gives it a little bit of a texture. It makes it look old. But it's a fun project. I did one of these on a live show last week and went through everything, but I didn't get a chance to put the light in and all of that and get it all done. But it was a fun project. I really like it. Rob and I were talking about doing another one, maybe putting a little bit of that rust paint on it or something. So it should be cool. And I got another little chunk of that tubing. I got all the tubing. I had enough to do the small one for the live, and then the bigger pieces, and so I bought 4 pieces, and each one of them was a foot, and it was like $16. But I'll put a link down below in the description to that too. Hope you enjoyed the project. Yeah, looking forward to making another one and kind of refining it a little bit. Before I go, I'm here in Oregon, just outside of Portland, and I want to give a huge thank you to all the firefighters and all the safety personnel and police and everything that's patrolling up there. We have a huge fire not too far away from us, and then another one on the other side of us. It's just about 5 or 6 miles away. So that one's pretty much contained. The other one they're still working on is a massive fire, and hundreds of thousands of people have been evacuated, and so our heart goes out to them. But just a big thank you to everybody that is out there working on it. So thank you guys. All right, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.